So good.
Lancaster!
Welcome, goodies.
That's you.
I'm Jason Mundock, and this is So Good Lancaster. There's a creative collaboration born out of the pop-up scene in Lancaster called the Good Goods Market. It's the brainchild of three local pop-up entrepreneurs, Jamie from Petals Flower Trike, Holly from Hilly Ceramics, and Murphy from The Good Murph. It's an occasional pop-up market that goes down at Westart and began organically over dinner.
One time we were out for dinner.
The three of you?
Yeah. The three of us.
A conversation led to an idea. That idea led to action, and that action led to some momentum that continues a couple of years later with each member of the team taking on different roles.
We really just kind of cruised into it pretty easy. Everyone's really good at a different part of it.
Today on the program, it's a peek into the Lancaster pop-up scene and how the Good Goods Market emerged from it. Also, we're featuring the song Stories Untold by indie R&B artist Christline. Stick around to the end of the show for So Good Music, a chat with the artist, and the full track. So Good Lancaster is powered by the Candy Factory, also known as TCF, a co-working and social club in downtown Lancaster, Pennsylvania. ClubTCF.com.
Check it out.
It's time. This is So Good.
So good.
So Good Lancaster.
Petals Flower Trike started helping a friend out with a wedding.
First up, meet Jamie.
I'm Jamie Shirey, and I'm Lancaster's flower fairy via the Petals Flower Trike.
Her journey began with a wedding and a trike over 5 years ago and blossomed into a full-on flower-powered business.
I really enjoyed working with the flowers, and when it was all said and done, I just was sitting around. I was like, I really need to do something with this. I knew I wanted it to involve a bike, and my friend found this great company, Haley Tricycles, and asked if he would custom build a trike for me. We gave him the idea, and that's how the trike came to be. And then I just pieced it all together and found local flower farmers in Lancaster. I kind of just went for it. I didn't have a really big plan. I just kind of thought, I can figure this out.
Where did you first, what was the first experience you had saying, okay, I've got this trike. It is customized to have this basically a flower shop connected to it. Now what?
I really wasn't sure exactly how it was going to unfold. If I would just load it up with flowers and bike around from spot to spot. And then very quickly, it just turned into people asking me to show up for different occasions for their business.
It's like a food truck.
Like a food truck. At the very beginning, I tried to get a permit with Lancaster, and I think they didn't know what to do with me because I wasn't food.
Right.
So that took a while, and I wasn't sure where I could go, where I couldn't go, and then I didn't have to worry about it because when people asked me to come to their business, it was just sort of as if I was under their umbrella.
Right. It's like hiring a caterer or something, right? You just show up.
And really, it didn't take long for that to be the way it was going to go.
Yeah. So I went to Tyler School of Art.
Next up is Holly.
I'm Holly Farrell. I'm a local artist, primarily working in ceramics.
Holly's artistic path morphed from painting to pottery, and pop-ups became her primary way of connecting with customers.
It was 2008 to 2012, and then when I was there, I majored in painting and drawing. My intention at the time was graduate, go eventually to grad school, and then end up teaching at the university level. But right after I graduated college, I moved back here to do an emerging artist in residence program at Millersville University.
After 4 more years of doing 2D specific work, Holly mixed things up.
I knew of a local pottery studio. It still exists. It's in Landisville, and it's called Lancaster Clay Studios. It became an obsession, the whole process, at least with throwing on the wheel. It's very technical. And I just found myself really wanting to get good at it. I would go to bed at night and just see the wheel turning in my head. It was I just really got into it. And that was, at least 10 years ago. Back then I was making more work like suited for gallery, like a gallery setting. And now it's like basically all functional ceramics.
Got it.
Tableware, cups, plates, mugs, vases, etc. As of like 2021, I'm like operating my little business under the name Hilly Ceramics.
My company is called The Good Murph.
And then there's Murphy.
My name is Murphy Thiel, and I have a company called The Good Murph. It's a clothing and pattern making company.
Murphy's journey from cowboy boots to custom clothes evolved into a pattern business and eventually organizing one of Lancaster's coolest pop-ups.
I have a long history of working in fashion. I started in menswear. I went to leather. I went to footwear. I lived in New Mexico and made cowboy boots.
Nice.
It's been like a whole like evolution of my company, The Good Murph. But I moved to Lancaster in 2020 from New Mexico, and my intention moving from New Mexico was to open up a boot making company here in Lancaster, like all handmade, bespoke. And then I did that for a little bit, and then I just like got really burned out from years and years and years of like hardcore leather work. And then so in 2021, I shifted into making clothes. And that's kind of how I like really got to know Jamie and Holly, which is really funny to think because that's how I met Holly. I like organized a pop-up when I moved to Lancaster, like honestly not knowing anybody. Like I don't know what I just was like invigorated, and I was like, I'm gonna organize this pop-up. And then somebody had suggested Holly, and then like we became really good friends, and then like that's how we met Jamie. But
soon after the shift to handmade clothes, Murphy realized the challenges of managing inventory, sizing, and the intense workload it required. So she shifted gears, turning The Good Murph into a digital pattern business. Now, instead of producing garments, she designs clothing patterns for home sewers. To stay in the pop-up game, she pivoted to organizing.
To segue into like what we do is like I'm more of like helping organize like the good goods markets. If I get a wild hair to do a pop-up, I'm like, let's do it. I think what I'm going to do for the next one is just like sell fabric.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then maybe like have like a QR code where somebody can like purchase my online pattern and then be like, here's fabric. So just like always shifting and like figuring out where I feel comfortable.
So the whole idea of a pop-up is intriguing because we've had a lot of it around this area. I mean, Lancaster's been pretty friendly to the pop-up. There's been holiday markets, a lot of different holiday markets over the years. And there was a shop over on Queen Street that was literally a building that was designed for pop-ups.
Yeah, we've done
We've
one
all
there.
been there a couple of times.
Right. So what is it about the pop-up model that attracted you to it?
That's pretty much all I was going to do was pop up.
Here's Jamie.
Whether it was a location or if I would just ride that trike around.
Right.
And just see where people were is kind of what I thought it was going to be like at first. And then people just invited me. So that was always going to be like the vibe of a food truck.
Right.
And I have no intention of trying to have any like brick or mortar. To me, it was never, I'll do this first and build up.
Right. Develop into that. No.
Then you don't have to deal with all of that comes with owning a business in a building.
For me, like one of the things I love about a pop-up is like you can really like test and see what works.
Here's Murphy.
You know, I've done pop-ups where I've done matching sets, custom this, and like you really get to like kind of make whatever you want. So there is like that freedom of testing your business. And if you do want to move forward with like brick and mortar or whatever, it's like the best way to get like a finger on the pulse of what sells. I know Holly's probably in the same boat. It's like you can get like real-time feedback when your stuff just like sits in a store. You have to rely on the store saying, oh, Holly, your bowls sold great, or they just don't say anything at all. And you're like, did people like them? Did they pick them up? Did they look at them? And then like you can tell when people like go to your booth or go to your pop-up and they're like this. And then you just like, okay. And then you can kind of like cycle through that and like really pick up information that way.
What I do takes so long. Like the process itself is like It's very long. It's very tedious.
Here's Holly.
A lot of it is like hand painted, like super detailed. So like if I'm going into like production season and I want to like really focus on like what's going to sell, it's like I will kind of like nod back to like those interactions at pop-ups of like, okay, what are people just like basic, what are people buying? What are people more drawn to? So yeah, just like I think that like face-to-face interaction is really valuable.
What are the challenges? I mean,
Weather.
Oh, for you, for sure. Weather is like, and in general, a lot of pop-ups. But
I think it's a ton of work. It is a ton of work just to like, I'll speak for myself. Like I'm carrying a lot of stuff. It's heavy. I have to wrap it.
it's fragile.
I have to unwrap it. Like, I mean, it sounds like dramatic, but
no, that's absolutely true. I mean, if you have a store, there are pros and cons to both, right?
For sure.
If you have a store, you show up and open the door.
Right.
Yeah.
With the pop-up, you show up and create a store.
It is so much.
It is.
It's so much schlepping.
It's a lot of schlepping. Yeah.
And then, you know, like if I'm doing one in Philly, it's like, now I'm in the car. It's a lot. And then on top of that, you're like talking to people for hours that day, you know, and that's can get depleting at a certain point. Those are the challenges, I would say, is just
like, tell me about like inventory. You mentioned sizes with clothes. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. It was like, also, we all share a studio together.
Oh.
So we have a studio in Lancaster on Duke and Liberty. So, you know, before we go pop-ups, it's usually just like a mess in there. But you want to bring as much product as you possibly can. So those weeks leading up to it, for myself, it's just like sewing. And then you're like, you know, you want to make it really aesthetically pleasing. You want to make a nice, approachable, you're doing like a mini marketing experiment.
Right.
So, but yeah, the inventory is a very hard thing to figure out.
If you have workplace flexibility and can work from anywhere, you probably know how lonely it can get working all day, every day in the same building where you sleep, i.e. your house. TCF Co-working and Social Club in Lancaster is the solution. Get out of the house, work around other humans in real life, and get social with a ton of clubs, activities, and events. TCF offers community, full-time, and private office memberships and day passes if you're just passing through town. Check out clubtcf.com, book a tour, and get plugged in. Let's pivot to the good goods market. Tell me about the genesis of this. Who came up with it?
I think it was a true collaboration.
Okay.
One time we were out for dinner.
The three of you?
Yeah.
The three of us. And because that is what I do, I was asking them, you know, do you guys have any pop-ups coming up? What's your schedule like this year? And I knew I wanted to do something at Lemon Street Market. It just lends itself for the cutest little setup. And so we set up, we called it the Lemon Lot. And that was probably 3 years ago now at this point. And I would say that was the beginning of the three of us really vibing together, feeling a good collaboration going. We all had great different things, different product. And I think it grew from that.
And we got an ice cream truck, which is always what we try to do is we like always are like, we need some food or something to like get people out. So like we usually always book like something really, really good that kind of people can like peruse and get ice cream or wood-fired pizza we've done. And
shout out to Scott's Artisan Pizza.
Yeah, Scott's Artisan. We love Pop-Up
gosh.
Master.
So the Lemon Lot, just the three of you?
And then the ice cream truck, we had Sugar Whipped come.
So it feels like that might have been seen as a success.
It was.
What's the next step after that leading to Good Goods Market? Like, hey, guys, this was awesome. Let's do this again.
I think continually hanging out, we would just talk and we want a tight market where you're just going to really enjoy every vendor's that is there. And with those conversations, I think we were just like, let's just do it. Let's put a market together.
What was the first Good Goods Market? Tell me about the first, like that was branded that way.
The one that was after the Lemon Lot, so that like after that one, it's always been Good Goods, and it's always been at West Art.
Okay.
I would say that building does play a role in, the whole like genesis of Good
Yeah.
Goods Market. So like I guess at the time Josh and Rufus had secured the building, and they had like mostly it was just ideas at that point, and then I kind of like caught word of that, and I was like, let me like get in with them and chat with them and see what the possibilities are of them being like
Yeah, the host venue.
exactly.
I had a studio space there for a minute, and so I was in touch with them a lot too, and it just was like the perfect spot to try that out.
What was that expansion from the three of you in an ice cream truck? Then how many vendors participated in the first Good Goods?
I think about 20.
we
Okay.
bumped it up to 20.
Yeah, we've like fluctuated around that number, but I think like us having experience collectively like doing so many markets, like before we started doing them, I was going to like Baltimore and doing like pop-ups in Baltimore that were pretty good, and I just was like catching the vibe, like okay, like we just kind of like put our heads together, and then one of the things that like our favorite part is like we kind of try to like search out for people. We've reached out to like Philly people and just kind of being like, Holly's great at it. She'll be like, oh, I found this like person, and we'll reach out to them, and just creating a curated group of people where we feel like it's like a pretty good like group as a whole, not too many people doing the same things, just kind of like making a really nice like curated experience.
Well, yeah, then if you feel like your demographic
Yeah.
would appreciate all of the vendors,
Exactly.
it's going to be an elevated experience for that
Yeah,
person.
yeah. And that's just like what we do. I mean, other things are great. That's just like what kind of like Good Goods like strives to be, I think, for the most part.
Was it a challenge? I mean, you've done markets and you're obviously pop-up experts, but was it a challenge to finally go, well, how are we going to do this? Like to get on the other side of it
Yeah.
and figure out how to organize it, or did it come pretty naturally?
I think what's so great about Lancaster, like I lived in Philly for like 7 years. What's so great in comparison about Lancaster is it's kind of like, I'm not saying we're big fish, but it's a smaller pond. And I just feel like not too many other people were doing it. And with it being smaller, like we're all pretty well connected here.
Lancaster's the perfect size for things like this because it's big enough that you have enough resource, right? There are venues, there are enough artisans that would be doing something that would be similar, but it's small enough that you're not going to get lost in the shuffle, and or it's going to be super challenging to get people to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's really sitting at a nice sweet spot right now for this kind of thing.
It is a sweet spot. And we all have our people that just like support us over and over again. And then you get like your new people here and there. So it is this really sweet balance.
Do you find that generally Lancaster is favorable to the pop-up idea, like as a community?
Maybe because of the size. Yeah.
I think so.
It's also very walkable.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like if that's not even your like full intention, you might stumble upon it going elsewhere.
Yeah. How many Good Goods have there been to date?
This will be the fourth one coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you seen growth in terms of people showing up to shop and in terms of interest from vendors?
1,000%. It's something that I think we're all super, super proud of. Just this past holiday one was insane.
It was really good.
From what I understood, all the vendors did well. And I definitely had to take a second just seeing like right when it started at like 10, seeing like the line of people
Out
like
the door
at West Art. I was like, oh my God, like this is.
Yeah, you're onto something.
This
Yeah.
is really great. And I had to take a moment and just kind of like cherish it.
And one of the things I love too is like we want everybody to make money, and it's not always about money, but like when our vendors come up and they're like, "Oh my God, this was like the best market I've ever done." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
That's like
That's the big takeaway.
yeah,
I think.
it's awesome because it's
Yeah.
like our friends and people we meet, it's like then they're kind of like monetizing their craft and getting their name out there, and it's like this is what it's all about for them too. So,
And I think like us all being vendors and like small business owners, we have that perspective going into it, you know, in terms of like organizing it and curating it and stuff. And I think that that's probably a big part of why it's successful, is that we, you know, we're looking at it in terms of being a vendor ourselves and the challenges that are there with that.
Yeah, there's an empathy there, right?
Right.
You know what they're going through, and so you're going to try
We've
to...
all been to bad
Yeah.
markets.
Absolutely.
oh my God. Yeah.
And I would hate it to be that person. You know, they'd be like, I'm sorry, you had to sit here for 8 hours and you made like $50.
Are you looking for the perfect space for your next meeting, media project, or private event? Well, TCF has you covered. Our conference rooms are perfect for meetings with your team or your clients. Our media studio can accommodate photography, audio, and video production. And our 6th floor venue has everything you need to throw an unforgettable private party or retreat. Book now at lancastervenue.com and take your next event to the next level. Interesting thought. In your pop-up experience, biggest surprise? Like, right, you start something like this, you have an impression in your head, like you even said, Jamie, that you had, I think I'm just going to do this thing, and you have this, you paint a picture in your mind. What in your pop-up experience has been sort of the biggest surprise?
That it actually is working, that people actually want the flowers. Like for me, I definitely went through, I was like, I don't know, do people want these? I'm not sure. And it's like, wow, yeah, okay. People are into this. And then I make these little watercolor cards. So that's my answer, is these little watercolor cards I attach to the bouquet. Or if I have had enough time to make many, you'll get your bouquet, and then I say, okay, now you get to pick out your watercolor card, and we'll clip it on. So it's kind of like a little element of surprise at the beginning. Now people are used to it. But the amount of people that remark on these watercolor cards and that they save them and they're hanging up on their fridge or they've made a garland out of them is the most heart-touching. Like it's become a little thing of its own. And that is the most surprising thing to me, that it just worked in general. And then that these like just little silly watercolor cards I got into making.
Are you going to start a watercolor trike?
No. No.
How about you, Holly?
Just to piggyback off Jamie, just surprised that it worked, surprised that the amount of people that show up, because that at the end of the day is what makes it all successful and what makes it worth it and motivates us to keep doing stuff like that. It's just like the community here. I mean, Murphy and I, this was a couple years ago, but at the original iteration of Nook Books on Queen Street. Like, do you remember we just like popped up on the sidewalk one Saturday, and it was just
I
total.
completely forgot about that.
It was a total like ask for forgiveness, not permission situation, where it's like, you know, we knew the shop owner, and she was like, "Who cares?" You know, like just set up on the sidewalk. Or
oh my God, I forgot
we had like
about
our
that.
cars parked with our four-ways on for hours, like, but. Even just doing something like that where like we didn't even really promote it that much, but people just happened upon us as they were walking by, and like, you know, we made a few $100s that day. It was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So yeah, I would just say just the general like reception and it being so good has been surprising and really lovely.
Yeah. I get surprised by like vendors a lot. Like sometimes we just had somebody who did like custom chain stitching at the last time. So like you could bring in a jacket and get your name like custom embroidered on it or chain stitched, and like I'm just like, oh, she's so cool. Like she's so awesome. She like killed it, and it was just such like a fun thing. And like when we get like vendors like that or like something special, I'm just like, yes, like it's like definitely, and I want them to do good. So I'll be like, yes, she was fully booked out, and that was awesome. So
yeah, just finding these people.
Yeah, that's
through
definitely
these
fun.
Channels, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's like this will be our 4th Good Goods, but we don't really have an intention of like stopping it anytime soon, and so it's just like it's just a snowball effect. It's like if the first time there was 500 people, then there was 700, and last time there was 1,000. Like we're kind of just like a little bit of growth, and then also getting good vendors. Like we've reached out to some like people that us as makers were like, oh my God, we got to get this candle person from Philly. So it's like maybe they won't come this time, but like maybe the next time we're like pulling them in. So
I think we learned too the timing of it. I think the first one we did was in October, and then we turned around and did another one in December.
mm-hmm.
And that was a bit too close. So I think we're still working with our timing of them
Mm-hmm.
and how many we want to have a year. I know at first Josh and Rufus were telling us, people were asking all the time, when is the next one? When is the next one? And but we're still playing around with that. Last year we did it Mother's Day. This time we decided to push it a little into June. So seems like maybe 3 or even 2 a year.
So basically, just keep your eyes peeled and look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still learning. But from the time that we got the idea, they might think differently. We really just kind of like cruised into it pretty easy. Everyone's really good at a different part of it.
Mm.
So Holly does a lot of the computer emailing,
Correspondence.
Communication.
And then Murphy makes all of our wonderful signs. And then they kind of refer to me as boots on the ground. So when it's close to it, I'm just running around putting flyers out or communicating with Josh and Rufus or whatever. So
Right.
we kind of have all our little roles. And the first one was definitely put a lot of work into it. But then the second one, we kind of figured out. And now we just kind of roll with it.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks all so much for spending some time with me today and sharing
Thank you.
about
This
the Good
has been
Goods.
so lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks to the founders of Good Goods Market, Jamie, Holly, and Murphy, for taking time to chat with me about the Lancaster pop-up scene and Good Goods. You can find Good Goods Market on Instagram, along with Jamie at Petals, that's with a T, Petals Flower Trike, Holly at Hilly Objects, and Murphy at The Good Murph. Links in the show post. Hey goodies, we do love hearing from you. Let us know what you think of today's episode, or if you have any fun announcements or events you'd like us to share on the show. Head over to SoGoodLancaster.com and submit your comments, or find us posting about the show in the Lancaster subreddit on, you guessed it, Reddit. Your thoughts and announcements could be featured in an upcoming episode of the podcast. Today on So Good Music, it's Christline, an indie R&B artist I had the pleasure of meeting at a couple of open mics we hosted at TCF. That's the Candy Factory co-working space. Until very recently, Christline was a student at Franklin and Marshall College. Today we're talking about her 2024 track, Stories Untold. So as I was listening through to your work on Spotify, what I like to do with artists who I want to feature is just kind of go to their account and just listen. Just put on everything that, just let it play. And while I'm working, while I'm doing other things, and see what jumps out at me. And this particular song, every time I would cycle through these songs, I would stop and go, what's that one? And every time it was Stories Untold. There's an ambience. It's a very atmospheric piece. And I was really drawn to the sounds, the collage and layers of sound in this song. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, Stories Untold definitely has a lot of layers. I love vocal layering. And, you mentioned this thing of like ambient music. Like, that's actually a really wonderful way that I'd like to describe my own music to people. But Stories Untold, I wrote this after going through a really, really, really tough time in my life where, I didn't even want to do music anymore. I didn't even like see the joy in life. And I what I've kind of felt over me, like as I was writing this song in my room, was like my higher self like talking to me and just being like, hey, like there are so many stories for you that are just untold, like so many unwritten stories that you have yet to experience. And you'll never know if you don't keep going, if you don't keep living this life and, you know, managing and learning through like the struggles and um, the strife and everything, right? So Stories Untold is a song to inspire those who kind of feel done, those who feel like, yeah, I don't think there's anything left for me here. But that's not true. there's so much left for everybody. You just have to keep going and remembering what it is that you love and going after that. Yeah.
Those are wise words. You have a lot left to say as well, I'm sure. So this is Stories Untold by Christline on So Good Music.
If you stay, how will you know that it's even for you after all the times you seem to let it go? Misbehave out of control. In the same space you are growing up. Take a look at chaos and how things in the midst of your destruction. It's better for you out there. Let your good thought to your blessings in the midst of your destruction, in the midst of your existence. Stories untold. Stories untold. If you asked, I'd let you know that it's a shame we've been here once before. Vicious cycle. Trust in divine timing. Trust that it's already. Try but you won't change it. Only one life living. It's better for you out there. What are you waiting for? See your destruction. See your existence. Stories untold. Stories
That was Stories Untold by Christline. Until we meet again, stay good, Lancaster. Stay good. So Good Lancaster is produced at So Good Media in Lancaster, Pennsylvania by yours truly and Ann Kirby. Follow us online at sogoodlancaster.com and follow us on all of the socials. Have any comments, questions, or want to learn more about how So Good Media can help you with your podcast and media productions? Drop us a line at hello@sogoodmedia.studio.